Oh, wait, you're listening?
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
You're
Listening
to RadioLab.
RadioLab.
Shorts!
From
WNYC.
C and NPR.
3, 2, 1. Hey, I'm Jad Abumrad.
I'm Robert Krulwich.
This is RadioLab.
And this.
Like this?
This is Alex Bellos.
Okay.
He's a writer. He's written a lot about sports, particularly about Brazilian soccer, but also math, or he likes to say maths.
And when I wrote my first math book, here's looking at Euclid, I went and gave loads of talks. And at the end of the talk, there'd always be someone who would put their hand up and they'd say, "What's your favorite number?" And this used to just irritate me because I myself don't have a favorite number.
You don't have a favorite number?
No, I think it's stupid. But no, that's incorrect. I did think it was stupid. I just didn't have one.
Okay.
Wait, and why would the question annoy him? It seems to me it's the most normal question you could ask.
Well, but he's talking about a math book to math enthusiasts. What's your favorite number? It's like sort of it's too silly. Or maybe it's like they're making fun of him.
I got so infuriated that once, I think I was a bit tired. It was like, I don't know where the gig was. And I just said, "What's your favorite number?" Just turning it back at the person in the audience. And they said, 12. And I was shocked. I said, "What, you weren't asking me because you were kind of taking the piss out of the math mo. You were actually really wanted to know because you wanted to share your own favorite number." And he's like, "Oh, yeah." And then the person sitting next to them were like, "Oh, yeah, like mine's 8. And then like mine's 7. And I thought, this is interesting. And I can remember asking the audience, "Well, who here's got a favorite number?" And at least half the people put their hands up. And in a way that you go from being a smoker when you stop smoking to being like a rabid anti-smoker. I went from being, favorite number agnostic to being obsessed with favorite numbers.
He started a website.
Favouritenumber.net.
Just asking people the question.
And I put it out there.
And I helped him out on my blog.
And I had, within the first few weeks actually, more than 30,000 people.
Hello? Hello. Hi.
From all over the world.
This is Jenny from Round Lake, New York.
My name is Tatar from Dubai.
Darren Scare, Sydney, Australia.
Montevideo, Uruguay.
Porsgrunn, Norway.
Telling me their favorite numbers.
My favorite number is definitely 8.
30. 29.
11.
And the reasons why.
The reason it's 4 is because my favorite card is the Ace of Spades, and it's commonly called the Death card.
My birth date is 4/14/59, so 5 from 9 is 4.
My favorite number is 100 because it has 2 zeros.
Okay, so here's what's fascinating about this, at least to me. First of all, the volume of responses. He got about 30,000 submissions from all over the planet. We put out a call on our app, which are the voices you're listening to here, and
We got 30,000?
no, we got 100. But
All
that's
right.
good for us. Okay.
Hey.
And clearly people want to talk about their favorite numbers and about their reasons, which are from the heart.
The number 5 was always a friend.
Because it feels like home and family, and it's kind of whole and balanced.
People talked about it in emotional terms. There's warmness, coolness, standoffishness, invitingness. There's a whole emotional landscape sitting here under the numbers. There's nothing to do with the numbers, really, but it's just there. It was there from the very start.
Okay.
Well, first of all, where do numbers come from? Who invented them?
Well, it depends what you mean by numbers. If by numbers mean this idea that we can tell the difference between 2 things and 3 things, well, then we've had that ever since humans existed, and you can test animals and they do it too.
But if you're talking about symbols and words, abstractions to designate specific numbers?
This is probably only about 5,000 years old and was an invention of the Sumerians, which is basically Iraq.
And Alex says from the moment they came up with these symbols, they then added sort of extra layers of utterly unnumbery stuff.
Right.
Like let's take the Sumerian word for 1.
And apologies for my accent in Sumerian.
I would not be able to fault you. My Sumerian's been very rough.
It's guess, which is GES.
Which I usually say yes, or however you say it. That's the word for 1.
And that is also the word for phallus.
Huh.
And the word for 2 is min, which is also the word for woman. And one can only really speculate, but there are, why 1 is man and 2 is woman. It could be...
could be they had some sort of Adam and Eve notion in mind, like...
Me first, you second.
Or...
Could be... Our distinguishing feature is that we have 1 of what makes us a man, and the woman has 2 breasts.
What?
No, look, whatever they were thinking, they were not the only ones to be thinking along these lines. You go forward 3,000 years. 3,000 years later, you get to Pythagoras, right? The Pythagorean theorem guy?
Yeah, so Pythagoras repeated the 1 is male, 2 is female thing by saying that odd numbers were masculine and even numbers were feminine.
He even tried to justify it by saying, look, do the calculations here.
Because when you add even to odd,
say 3 plus 2,
you get odd.
5.
Which means that when you add man to woman, you get man. So man is kind of stronger than woman.
By that logic, odd plus odd makes even.
Right.
So what is that? 2 males make a female? I mean, the whole thought is a little far-fetched to me.
So that is Steve Strogatz.
Professor of math at Cornell.
A regular on our show.
Friend of RadioLab.
Hater of the Pythagorean way of thinking about numbers, except for the triangle thing, which he loves. But here's what's weird, is that, go 5,000 years after the Sumerians and right up to the present time, when Alex does this worldwide survey, the what's your favorite number thing, here's something weirdly familiar.
I will just read you, for example, some of the adjectives in reasons why people prefer the number 1. Strong,
bold,
independent, honest,
brave,
different, pioneering, lonely.
Cowboys. Those are cowboy words.
Exactly.
I picture the number 1 as a man in a really nicely tailored Italian suit. He's got dark hair. I don't know why.
It's like Marcello Mastroianni rather than John Wayne right there.
2. Cautious, wise, pretty.
Soft, nurturing, whole.
Fragile.
Very personal, unintimidating.
Open.
Friendly.
relational,
Sympathetic.
complimentary,
Quiet.
easy to understand,
Flexible.
makes more sense.
They're kind of feminine.
Well, stereotypically feminine.
And these are both men and women contributing these descriptors for these 2 numbers.
Yeah, that was really striking to me. And it made me think, do you know what? We could all laugh at Pythagoras and the Sumerians and all the kind of ancient people saying, well, 1 is male and 2 is female. But some fragments of that remain.
Wait, this is not like a scientific study.
Well,
It's a survey.
actually,
The more that you look, there is kind of some science behind it.
in fact, there's a guy and a study in Indiana, a place you know.
Yes.
This guy.
James Wilkie, assistant professor at the University of Notre Dame.
So James and his team, here's what they do.
They take a baby that's just been born, maybe a few weeks old. Impossible to say just with the face whether it's boy or girl, so you have to get a 50-50.
They show people pictures of these androgynous little babies, and buried over on the side, you would hardly notice them,
Are strings of 4 or 5 digit numbers.
Numbers happen to be either all even or all odd.
Right.
And James's guys say, don't worry about those. They're for the storage.
These are tracking numbers. Go ahead and ignore these.
Just focus on the babies in the pictures and tell us.
Male or female?
Just look at the face and tell us whether it's a male or a female.
Mm-hmm. And it turns out that if a baby is next to odd digits, you're more likely to say that it's a boy than if the baby is next to even digits.
Really?
Yes.
Wait, how much more likely?
By a lot or by a teeny bit?
By a statistically significant amount, not a landslide.
Do you yourself assign any gender to either one? Do you find odd a little more male in some?
No, not at all.
Not at all.
I've never felt that at all. I've known that they were a bit different because they sort of feel different.
So he decided to investigate.
Just to see if there's anything behind it.
Yeah, why not?
Which led him and us to a guy named Greg Rowland.
Okay.
This is Robert.
Hi, Robert. How are you?
This is Andy. I'm a producer working with Robert.
Hi, Andy.
So first of all, can you just tell us, you have a peculiar job, I guess, at least peculiar to me. What do you do?
Well, I founded a company called the Semiotic Alliance.
Which is a business, right?
It is a consultancy, yeah.
So Greg is paid very good money by some of the biggest brands in the world.
Coca-Cola, Ford, IBM.
To give them advice about how their brands would go down.
We look at people's emotional responses to culture, symbols and ideas. On the basis of this, we can help companies with packaging, advertising.
And often he says what that means is he's helping companies harness the symbolic power of numbers.
I think one of the most exciting encounters with mathematics for me was with KFC.
11 herbs and spices.
With the 11 herbs and spices.
Season
11, which is Kabbalistic in its secrecy. Such a strange number.
Well, I thought that Colonel Saunders was in his experimental kitchen and just happened to...
He's
Sanders.
He's Southern.
Oh, Sanders.
Sanders.
Colonel Sanders was in his kitchen, and he was just fiddling around, and he came up with 11 herbs, we call them herbs here, and spices.
Well, that's one version of the truth, but the symbolic truth is far more interesting and potent. 11 has, enormous mystical potential simply because it's not 10 or 12 or 5. It's not a sensible number.
What's wrong with 10? Like, if I say, with my 10 herbs and spices.
Because with 10, you're implying that you have a decimal balance at work. It's going to be very hard to engage people emotionally with 10. 10 feels ordered, it feels highly rational.
Greg says it may have something to do with the fact that you have only 10 fingers. I mean, look at them. That's it, 10.
And so 11 just is that extra one that has made Colonel Sanders uncopyable.
And the same thing might be happening with 501 genes. Like, why is it 501, Jad, and not 500?
501, again, has just gone one beyond the place you would expect to get to.
Wait a second. What if you don't want that? What if you want a product where you need to play it safe?
Well, then you can stick with multiples of 10, which is really useful when you're trying to be practical or scientific.
Absolutely.
For example...
Mayday! Mayday! I'm being attacked by Zits!
Oxy 10. We're winning the war against Zits.
Take the Acme Cream Oxy 10, which, viewing your face, I know you're not entirely unfamiliar with.
The 10 there is obviously, that's where we get to a solution. That's where the fingers on our hands run out. So there is a sense of completion there, a sense of we've gone through the process and we're going to come out okay. And of course that's why 11 is interesting, because you're embarking into the infinite. At that point you're going beyond the human finger count.
Top to what we use on stage, but it's very, very special because if you can see, the numbers all go to 11. Look, right across the board. 11, 11,
and most of
11,
the amps go up to 10.
Exactly.
Does that mean it's louder? Is it any louder?
Well, it's one louder, isn't it? It's not 10. You see, most blokes are going to be playing at 10. You're on 10 here, all the way up, all the way up, all the way up. You're on 10 on your guitar. Where can you go from there? Where?
I don't know.
Nowhere, exactly. What we do is if we need that extra push over the cliff, you know what we do?
Put it up to 11.
11, exactly. One louder.
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
11 herbs and spices.
That's right.
Now, did you say that as if you want to taste the thing?
I do. I used to love getting that as a kid.
But did the number 11 tickle you in any way?
Yes, definitely. Would not buy it with 10 herbs and spices. That sounds very solid and Stalinist.
Really?
No. I'm yanking your wishbone.
Oh, really? Yeah. I was kind of hoping you meant it. No.
I don't mean it. No, come on.
I gotta agree with Steve. Like the idea that 11 is mystical because it's one more than 10. Although with 10, I think he has a point.
It is boring. I agree.
Here's just a fact. Big companies with large checkbooks call Greg up all the time for advice.
I think the thing about numbers is that because they are so rational, so abstract, for that very reason, they are to us in some way bizarre. I think human beings have an absolute need to invest emotion, love, hate, fear, to invest the non-rational into things which seem almost obscenely rational.
My magic number is number 8. I turned age 18 on October the 18th, 1988.
Number 4, because I won a swimming race in lane 4 as a child.
My favorite number is 3, because to me it recalls to mind the Trinity.
Now, however you feel about all this stuff, one thing that seemed pretty interesting to us and to Alex is you'd expect if you were asking the world to give you a favorite number, there'd be a huge difference from one culture to the next. 13 is an unlucky number. You don't have a 13th floor in America. In Korea, they don't have a 4th floor because it's unlucky 4 over there.
Really?
Yeah. But here's something interesting. The entire planet, all the continents, and everyone in all the continents came to a kind of consensus around one number.
Yeah.
So tell me, Alex, what was the world's favorite number?
I hope you've got some good audio of a drum roll coming up. Maybe
Yeah,
I'll
of course
do
we will.
myself. 7.
It's 7.
My favorite number is 7.
I like the number 7.
My favorite number is number 7.
And we heard pretty much the same thing.
In second place was 3, and in third place was 8.
Yeah, but it was a big win for 7, 30% ahead of 3.
I became really interested in 7 because, yes, we all know it's a favorite number, but why is it the people's favorite number, and when did that begin? And
I have one.
Oh, great. I love hearing reasons.
Holes in your head. Ears, 2 and 2, 1 and 1. Nostrils, 3 and 4. 5. Yeah, eyes, 6 and 7. Yeah, 7. 7 holes in your head.
There's no way that can be true.
Well, then look up at the night sky and be a Mesopotamian. So you don't have a telescope. What do you see? The sun, the moon, and 5 planets. 7. You spend the whole night looking at 7.
Yeah, all right.
Of course, that's not what you hear from people.
The number 7 just looks beautiful.
What you hear from people is about how beautiful it is.
I like the way it looks when I write it.
It is a good-looking number.
Or how it sounds.
Sounds beautiful. Sounds perfect.
A lot of people came in about the sound.
The sound of 7.
I get on that train. I think 7 comes out of your mouth real nicely. 7. Set.
I just
Set.
feel like the number 7 belongs to me, I guess.
Seva. It even sounds good in Arabic.
Yeah. Hebrew, it's Sheva.
Really?
Very similar. Siete.
Oh, it sounds great in Spanish.
Ah.
This makes me feel a little sad. Not to get silly on you, but there's a certain pleasure that people are getting that I'm not getting from numbers.
Ever?
Because I feel like if someone says 8 is curvy, part of me feels you're talking about the shape of the way that we draw the number 8 as a numeral. That has nothing to do with the number 8.
What are you talking about? It's the way I see. You say 8 to me. I don't see 8 apples. I see that curved. I see the 2 circles, one on top of the other, resting comfortably.
That makes me sad. That makes me feel like you're missing the reality of the number 8, which is that 8 has intrinsic properties. That's really dry speak. But 8 is like 10. Okay, 10 to me is much more like when you go to the bowling alley and the 10 pins are lined up in that triangle pattern.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
There's the 1, then the 2, then the 3, then the 4. That is a gorgeous way to think about 10. 10 is about this magnificent symmetry that can make a triangle. But 7 is a disaster as a mathematical object. I mean, it doesn't have nice symmetries. If I tried to put bowling pins down with 7, it's ugly however you arrange it, to me. So it makes me feel left out, that I can't have the same fun that other people are having.
Okay, but if you ask Alex, why is 7 the world's favorite number? He says
It's because 7 is arithmetically unique. It's the only digit of the first 10 numbers that can neither be multiplied or divided within the group. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we can double them.
And they stay under 10.
In the group. You've got to keep them in the group. 6, what's left? So we had 6, 8, and 10. Those you can half them. And the ones left are 7 and 9. And 9 you can divide by 3. So 7 is unique.
So you think that there's enough arithmetic in everybody that without having worked it out as painfully as you just did, people will still find that there's something unusual about 7 mathematically. Not about memories, not about culture, not about shape, just about the math itself.
You cannot separate the math from all of those things. The way we understand numbers is to do with their arithmetic, and that it's the arithmetic has been absorbed by culture, and sort of the greatest example of that is the predominance of 7 as the most special, religious, mystical number that there is.
Oh, so he thinks it's not so much that the culture has gotten into the math. It's the other way around, that the math actually was there first and that got into the culture.
Yeah.
All right, you're making me feel better.
Would you like to thank somebody?
I would. I'd like to thank Steve Strogatz once again for joining us whenever we call him. And I'd like to thank Alex Bellos, whose book is called The Grapes of Math, How Life Reflects Numbers and Numbers Reflect Life.
All right, well, we should go, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm Jad Abumrad.
I'm Robert Krulwich.
Thanks for listening.
This is Christine Quintana from Vancouver, BC. RadioLab is supported in part by the National Science Foundation and by the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation, enhancing public understanding of science and technology in the modern world. More information about Sloan at www.sloan.org.